and welcome to today's video on evaporation. Now, the technique of evaporation is involved in when you have a solute dissolved in a solvent, and it's usually water, and that makes a solution. And to separate them back out into their normal parts, we need to evaporate or heat up the liquid so that it evaporates, leaving the solute behind. So before we start today's video, we need to go through some of the safety equipment that's required. So because we're using a Bunsen burner, we need to have our hair tied up, we need to have our safety goggles on, and we need to be wearing an apron. So we're going to demonstrate putting our hair up, putting our safety goggles on, and wearing our apron. We also have to remember, because we have gas going, that we need to be careful and not move around the lab while we're doing the experiment. First, before we start, we need to set up our equipment. So the equipment we need are a heat-proof mat that goes down on the desk to protect the desk from the heat of the Bunsen burner. Then we need a tripod. As the name suggests, tri meaning three, so that's the piece of equipment that has 3 legs. On top of the tripod goes the gauze mat, and the gauze mat is designed to spread the heat evenly across the surface that is being heated. We need to have an evaporating basin or evaporating dish. So that is the substance that's going to be heated, and so our solution goes in the evaporating dish. We of course need to have our Bunsen burner attached to the gas tap, and we need to have all of our things, so our solution of copper sulfate, and in this instance I've got it in a beaker already. We also need a spatula towards the end and a set of tongs so that we can remove the heat, the evaporating dish from the heat mat. Okay, so let's start. Okay, so let's get started. So safety first. Have to light our Bunsen, make sure the holes are closed. Turn on our gas, strike our match, not necessarily in that order. And move to a roaring flame. Put our evaporating dish on the top. We have our blue copper sulfate solution. So we're going to pour that into the bowl and wait for it to evaporate. So as the heat heats the solution, the water will start to boil and it will evaporate and leave the blue solid salt. We need to make sure that we turn off the Bunsen before all the liquid has evaporated. Copper sulfate has some water molecules stuck to it, and so if you heat it too much, those water molecules will break down, and instead of having blue solute at the end, you'll end up with a white powder. So here we go, and it's starting to boil. You can see some liquid starting to come in, and the gas. Can you cut it now? Just pause. So you can see now that it is boiling quite vigorously and there's not a lot of liquid left. So this will probably only take another 30 seconds, because remember, we need to turn off the gas before all the liquid has gone. So at this stage we need to keep a constant eye on it, making sure that we don't over boil our solution. So you need to have your tongs at the ready to take off your evaporating dish. So, and gas off. And the heat of the dish will evaporate the last of the liquid to leave our crystals there. I'm going to wait for that to cool for a second, and then I'm going to scrape my crystals off and stick them to a piece of sticky tape. So now that I've scraped all the copper sulfate particles off the side, I can get a piece of sticky tape, gently crush in so I have some copper sulfate on there, and so that there's enough for everyone in your group. Don't take too much. And then I can stick that into my prac report as the copper sulfate solute.